The massive hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador Jiwoo Park stood before the assembled representatives of 47 alien species. Her black uniform bore the simple blue and white emblem of Earth, a planet most of these creatures had barely heard of until recently. Above her, holographic displays showed Earth rotating peacefully in space, a small blue marble that seemed insignificant compared to the vast empire that surrounded it. Supreme Overlord Vexithara rose from his throne, his scales glinting under the chamber's lights. He was enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, with eyes that had watched civilizations kneel before him for decades. His voice boomed through the chamber, translated instantly into thousands of languages. Human representative, Vexithara began, his tone dripping with condescension. The Galactic Dominion has been patient with your species. For 30 years we have allowed Earth to exist in isolation, but this ends today. You will open your borders, submit to Dominion law, and contribute your resources to the Empire. This is not a request. Jiwoo stood perfectly still, her face showing no emotion. Behind her, holographic images shifted, showing the Dominion's grand fleet over 800 warships that had crushed resistance across 12,000 star systems. It was a clear threat, one that had made hundreds of species surrender without firing a single shot. Chancellor Cremora, an insect-like being with 4 arms and compound eyes, clicked forward. Your silence speaks volumes, human. Perhaps you do not understand. The Dominion has never been refused. Those who resist are eliminated. Your planet has a population of 11 billion. It would be unfortunate if they suffered because of your pride. Jiwoo finally moved, taking 1 step forward. Her voice was calm, almost quiet, but it carried through the entire chamber. We understand perfectly. You believe your numbers make you strong. You believe your past victories guarantee future ones. You believe Earth will bow because others have. She paused, letting her words sink in. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. There was something in her tone that did not match the situation. She should have been afraid. She should have been negotiating. Instead, she sounded almost sad. We warned you, Jiwoo continued. 3 months ago, we sent detailed messages to your government. We explained that Earth wishes to remain neutral. We asked for nothing but to be left alone. We warned you not to mistake our isolation for weakness. Vexithara laughed, a harsh sound that made several smaller species flinch. Warned us? You dare speak of warnings? We have conquered species with technology far beyond what your primitive world possesses. We have faced warriors who made your soldiers look like children. What could Earth possibly do to threaten the Dominion? Jiwoo reached into her uniform and pulled out a small data chip. She held it up for all to see. This contains everything we know about your military. Ship designs, weapon capabilities, fleet movements, command structures. We have been watching you for 30 years. We know where every ship is located. We know the names of your commanders. We know the weaknesses in your shields and the flaws in your tactics. The chamber erupted in noise. Species shouted in their various languages, some in anger, others in disbelief. Chancellor Cremora's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. Impossible. Our security systems are the best in the galaxy. They were designed by species who thought like you, Jiwoo replied. We think differently. You see, while you were conquering others, we were preparing. While you celebrated your victories, we built defenses. While you grew arrogant, we grew ready. Vexithara's eyes narrowed dangerously. You speak boldly for someone standing alone before an empire. Perhaps you need a demonstration of our power. No, Jiwoo said firmly. You need a demonstration of ours. She tapped a device on her wrist. Instantly, every holographic display in the chamber changed. They now showed live feeds from across Dominion space. Shipyards, military bases, fleet positions, all observed by sources the Dominion had never detected. But what made the council members gasp was the realization that these were not old recordings. The timestamps showed they were live, happening right now. For 30 years you left us alone because you thought we were not worth your attention, Jiwoo said. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was assuming we spent those years in fear. We did not. We spent them learning everything about you. Admiral Taewon Kim sat in Earth's Strategic Defense Command, deep beneath the Korean peninsula. The underground facility stretched for kilometers, filled with the most advanced technology humanity had ever created. Thousands of personnel worked at stations, monitoring everything from the edge of the solar system to deep space beyond. Ambassador Park has delivered the message, an officer reported. The Dominion is responding as expected. Supreme Overlord Vexthera has ordered the Grand Fleet to begin movement toward Earth. Taiwan nodded slowly. He was an older man, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many simulations, too many war games. For 3 decades he had prepared for this moment, hoping it would never come. Now it had arrived. Activate Protocol Omega, he ordered. Recall all our people from Dominion space. Bring our fleets to full readiness, and send the signal to Captain Lee. Across the command center, displays lit up with new information. Hidden throughout the solar system, defense platforms began powering up. Ships that had been drifting in seemingly random orbits started moving into formation. Weapons that had been disguised as mining equipment or research stations revealed their true purpose. Captain Hyojin Lee stood on the bridge of the EDS Indomitable, humanity's flagship. The ship was beautiful in a deadly way, all sleek lines and hidden weapons. Unlike the blocky, obvious warships of the Dominion, the Indomitable looked almost peaceful. That was intentional. Humanity had learned long ago that the best weapon was one your enemy underestimated. Signal received from Earth Command, her communications officer announced. Protocol Omega is active. All civilian traffic has been cleared from the outer system. Defense grid is online. Hyojin looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 850 Dominion warships were beginning their journey to Earth. They expected an easy victory, a quick submission, perhaps a short battle at most. They had no idea what was waiting for them. How long until the advance fleet reaches the Kuiper Belt? She asked. 72 hours, Captain. Good. That gives us time to prepare the welcome party. Hyojin allowed herself a small smile. Let us show them why you should never ignore a warning. Back at the Galactic Council, Jiwoo prepared to leave. Vexthera had dismissed her with threats and mockery. The other species had watched in a mixture of pity and curiosity. They thought they were watching a small planet make its last defiant gesture before inevitable conquest. As Jiwoo walked toward her transport, Council member Praxis, a being made of living crystal, approached her quietly. Ambassador Park, please reconsider. The Dominion has never lost a war. Your bravery is admirable, but it will only lead to Earth's destruction. Jiwoo turned to face the crystalline being. Thank you for your concern, but you misunderstand the situation. We are not being brave. We are being practical. The Dominion chose this path. We simply walked it to its logical conclusion. What conclusion? Praxis asked, confused. The one we warned them about, Jiwoo replied, and walked away. In space above the Council world, Jiwoo's transport launched toward the distant Sol system. As it jumped to faster than light speed, the last human presence left Dominion space. Behind them, the Grand Fleet continued its advance, confident in its power. But in the cold darkness of the Kuiper Belt, humanity's hidden weapons waited in silence, and Admiral Kim watched the enemy approach with the patience of someone who had prepared for this moment for 3 decades. The warning had been given. The warning had been ignored. Now the Galactic Dominion would learn what humanity had been trying to tell them all along. Some species should not be pushed. Some planets should not be threatened. Some warnings should never be ignored. Earth was about to teach the galaxy that lesson, and it would be a lesson they would never forget. Fleet Commander Thyros spread his wings slightly as he surveyed the tactical display before him. His species, the avian Krell, had served the Dominion for over a century, and he had personally led 17 successful conquest campaigns. The human system, with its single inhabited planet, would be his 18th. It would probably be his easiest. His advance fleet consisted of 150 warships, more than enough to handle any resistance. The Grand Fleet, with 700 more ships, followed 2 days behind. It was excessive force for such a primitive species, but the Dominion believed in making examples. Earth would surrender quickly or it would burn. Commander, we have entered the outer system, his navigation officer reported, crossing the boundary of what humans call the Kuiper Belt. No contacts detected. Thyros clicked his beak thoughtfully. No defense satellites? No warning buoys? Not even automated messages telling us to turn back? Nothing, Commander. Their system appears completely undefended. Run deeper scans. The human ambassador was bold. That boldness must come from somewhere. Thyros did not entirely trust the Supreme Overlord's assessment. Something felt wrong. The silence was too complete, too perfect. But before his officer could respond, everything changed. The first kinetic projectile struck a Dominion cruiser at 95% of light speed. There was no warning, no energy signature to detect, just a solid mass of metal moving at relativistic speeds. The cruiser simply ceased to exist, torn apart by the impact and scattered across space as superheated particles. Then another ship died. Then 3 more. Then 10, evasive action. Theros screamed, but his ships were massive and slow. They had been built for intimidation and firepower, not agility. All across his fleet, vessels tried to maneuver, but the invisible weapons found them anyway. On a hidden platform embedded in a chunk of ice the size of a mountain, Dr. Hyunwoo Song watched the battle through multiple displays. Around him, automated systems continued launching the tungsten projectiles, each one accelerated through electromagnetic rails that stretched for kilometers through the frozen rock. Target hit. Adjusting aim for next target, the AI announced calmly. Ammunition remaining. 7,400 rounds. Hyunwoo allowed himself a satisfied smile. These railgun platforms had taken 15 years to build and hide throughout the Kuiper Belt. The Dominion had never thought to look for cold, inactive weapons. They had searched for energy signatures, for active systems, for obvious threats. They had found nothing because humanity had built these weapons to be invisible until the moment they fired. How many enemy ships destroyed? Hyunwoo asked. 30 confirmed. 8 more damaged and unable to maintain formation. The enemy fleet is attempting to retreat to a defensive position. Don't let them group up. Continue firing. Theros watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. His tactical officer was shouting numbers that made no sense. Projectile velocity exceeds anything in our database. Impact force equivalent to antimatter warheads. We cannot track the weapons before they fire. Return fire. Locate their positions and destroy them. Commander, we have nothing to target. The weapons appear to be scattered throughout this ice field, and there are thousands of ice chunks. By the time we locate one platform, it has already fired and gone silent again. A proximity alarm blared. Theros spun to see new contacts appearing on his display. But these were different. Ships. Human ships emerging from behind what his sensors had registered as large asteroids. They had been hiding there perfectly still, their engines completely cold. Now they moved with frightening speed and precision. Captain Hyojin Lee stood calmly on the bridge of the Indomitable as her ship accelerated toward the Dominion fleet. Around her flagship, 40 more Earth vessels moved in perfect coordination. They were smaller than the Dominion ships, sleeker and far more advanced. Target the command ships, she ordered. I want their leadership confused and unable to coordinate. Weapons free. The Indomitable's main cannon fired and a beam of focused energy lanced across space. It struck a Dominion battleship's bridge, punching through shields that should have been impenetrable. The Dominion had not expected weapons of this intensity from such a small ship. Captain, their shields are weaker than expected, her weapons officer reported. Our intelligence was accurate. They have been using the same technology for decades without improvement. Then let us show them what innovation looks like, Hyojin replied. All ships execute pattern Delta. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each one moving independently but with perfect timing. They did not fight like the Dominion, with massive ships trading fire until one side broke. They fought like predators, striking weak points, disappearing before the enemy could respond, then striking again from a different angle. Colonel Min Seo Choi felt the familiar sensation of her insertion pod, launching from the Indomitable. Around her, 24 more pods accelerated toward the Dominion flagship, invisible to the enemy's sensors. The pods were coated in material that absorbed radar and scattered light. To the Dominion, they would appear as nothing more than space debris. 30 seconds to contact, the pod's AI announced. Prepare for magnetic seal. Min Seo checked her weapon one last time. The Terra Marines had trained for this mission for years. They knew the layout of Dominion command ships better than the aliens who built them. They knew where the bridge was, where the weapons control center was located, where the life support systems could be accessed. The pod struck the hull of the Dominion flagship with a soft thud, magnetic clamps engaging instantly. Min Seo activated her cutting torch, and the thermite mixture burned through the alien metal in seconds. She pulled herself through the hole into a corridor that was thankfully empty. All teams report, she whispered into her communicator. Team 2, inside. No contacts. Team 3, inside. Moving to objective. Team 4, inside. Encountering light resistance. Min Seo smiled beneath her helmet. The Dominion had never faced boarding actions. They were too arrogant to consider that an enemy might try to capture their ships rather than destroy them. That arrogance was about to cost them dearly. Theros was trying to restore order when the door to his bridge exploded inward. He spun to see creatures in dark armor moving with frightening speed through the smoke. His guards raised their weapons, but the humans were faster. Precise shots dropped each guard before they could fire a single round. Then one of the humans was standing directly in front of him, a weapon pointed at his head. Through the helmet's visor, Theros could see a female face, calm and professional. "Fleet Commander Theros," Minseo said in perfect Dominion standard language, "you are now a prisoner of Earth. Order your fleet to stand down, or we will destroy every ship in this system." "You cannot," Theros stammered. "The Grand Fleet will avenge us. You may win this battle, but you cannot win the war." Minseo tilted her head slightly. "You still do not understand. This is not a battle. This is a lesson. Your ships, your tactics, your technology, all of it is outdated. We have been studying you for 30 years. We know everything about you, and now we are going to prove it." She gestured to one of her Marines who connected a device to the flagship's computer system. Within seconds, the device began downloading everything. Every file, every communication, every tactical plan. The Dominion's entire military database, copied and transmitted back to Earth in real time. "What are you doing?" Theros demanded. "Learning," Minseo replied simply. "You are going to tell us everything about your fleet positions, your reinforcement schedules, your chain of command. And then we are going to use that information to end this war before it truly begins." Admiral Taewon Kim watched the battle from Earth Defense Command. The tactical display showed the Dominion advance fleet in chaos. Over half their ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were trying to retreat, but human vessels harried them at every turn, preventing them from forming any kind of organized defense. "Sir, Colonel Choi reports the flagship is secure," an officer announced. "She has Commander Theros in custody and is downloading their database now." "Excellent. What are our losses?" 3 ships with minor damage. "No casualties." Taewon allowed himself a moment of relief. They had drilled for this scenario countless times, but actual combat always brought unexpected variables. That they had achieved such a decisive victory with minimal losses was almost unbelievable. "The Grand Fleet is still advancing," another officer reported. "They have received distress signals from the advance fleet but have not altered course. Supreme Overlord Vex Thara appears to believe this is a temporary setback. He thinks numbers will still win," Taewon said quietly. "He thinks that 700 ships will succeed where 150 failed. He does not yet understand what he is facing. Should we send another warning, sir?" Taewon shook his head. "No. We warned them before they sent their fleet. We showed them we were prepared. They chose to ignore us. Now we show them the price of that choice." He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to Captain Lee. Tell her to prepare for Phase 2. The Grand Fleet is about to learn the same lesson their advance fleet learned, but we will make it even more clear this time." War Master Zulvek studied the tactical reports with growing unease. His amphibious features remained calm, but inside, he felt something he had not experienced in decades of military service: doubt. He stood in the command center of the Dominion Grand Fleet's flagship, the Eternal Conquest, surrounded by hundreds of officers from dozens of species. They all looked to him for leadership, for the strategic brilliance that had won countless battles. But this situation was unlike anything he had faced before. "The advance fleet was destroyed," he said slowly, addressing Supreme Overlord Vexithera through the holographic display. "Not defeated, not forced to retreat, destroyed. Over 100 ships lost in less than 4 hours." Vexithera's image flickered with anger. Commander Theros was weak. He allowed himself to be surprised. "You will not make the same mistake, War Master. You will crush these humans and make an example of their planet. My overlord, respectfully, I believe we should reconsider our approach. The humans have technology we do not understand. Their tactics are unlike anything in our database. Perhaps we should negotiate." "Negotiate?" Vexthera's roar echoed through the speakers. "The Dominion does not negotiate with inferior species. You have 700 ships under your command. The humans have perhaps 50. Destroy them, or I will find someone who will." The transmission ended. Zulvek stood in silence for a moment, then turned to his officers. "Prepare the fleet for defensive formation. Maximum shields. Active scanning across all frequencies. I want to know if a single atom moves in this system before it reaches us." But even as he gave the orders, he knew they were insufficient. The humans had been watching the Dominion for 30 years. They would know about defensive formations. They would have planned for it. Commander Sora Han sat in the cockpit of her fighter surrounded by darkness. Her ship, officially designated Ghost 1, was unlike any fighter craft ever built. It was small, fast, and equipped with technology that made it nearly impossible to detect. Around her, 19 more Ghost Squadron pilots waited in similar craft. They had been drifting in the asteroid belt for 6 hours, their systems completely powered down, waiting for the Dominion Grand Fleet to pass through their position. All units, enemy fleet is entering engagement range, the squadron's AI announced. Power up on my mark, 3, 2, 1, mark. Sora's systems came online instantly. Her displays lit up with targeting data, showing 700 Dominion warships arranged in a defensive sphere. They thought the formation would protect them. They were wrong. Ghost Squadron, weapons free, Sora commanded. Target their command ships. Make every shot count. Her fighter accelerated from 0 to maximum speed in seconds. The Dominion sensors registered nothing. Their shields were designed to stop missiles and energy weapons, not small craft moving at speeds that should have torn them apart from the forces involved. Sora's targeting computer locked onto a Dominion cruiser's bridge. She fired, and a lance of concentrated energy powered by technology that compressed antimatter into a beam no wider than her finger punched through the ship's shields and hull as if they were not there. The bridge exploded and the cruiser began to drift, its command crew dead before they even knew they were under attack. All across the Dominion fleet, Ghost Squadron struck. 20 fighters, each one carrying firepower that rivaled a battleship, tore through the defensive formation like it did not exist. They appeared on sensors for only seconds before disappearing again, cloaked by technology the Dominion had never encountered. War Master, we are under attack, an officer shouted. Small craft moving at impossible speeds. Our shields are ineffective. Zolvex watched the tactical display in disbelief. Red indicators appeared and disappeared across his fleet. Ships that had been fully operational moments ago were now disabled or destroyed. The humans were not fighting a traditional battle. They were hunting, targeting leadership and command structures with surgical precision. Return fire! Deploy our own fighters! Sir, we cannot target them. They appear on our sensors for less than a second. Not enough time for weapons lock. Our fighters are too slow to intercept. Then the second wave hit. Dr. Hyunwoo Song watched from his monitoring station as the nanite swarms activated. Each swarm consisted of trillions of microscopic machines, so small they could pass through Dominion shields without triggering any alarms. They had been deployed days ago, drifting through space like cosmic dust waiting for their activation signal. Now they moved toward the Dominion fleet with purpose. They attached to hulls, to engines, to weapon systems, and they began to dismantle everything at the molecular level. A Dominion battleship suddenly lost power. Its engines sputtered and died. Its weapons went offline. Its life support systems began failing. The crew panicked, unable to understand what was happening. They ran diagnostics that showed nothing wrong, even as their ship fell apart around them. Then another ship died, and another, and another. What is happening to our fleet? Zulvex demanded. Our ships are losing power with no signs of damage. General Bo Young-yoon sat in Earth's intelligence headquarters, listening to intercepted Dominion communications. She was an older woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. For 30 years, she had been building Earth's intelligence network, placing agents and monitoring systems throughout Dominion space. Now that network was paying off. War Master Zulvex is attempting to organize a retreat, one of her analysts reported. He has finally realized he cannot win this engagement. Let him try, Bo Young replied calmly. But I do not think his navigation systems will cooperate. Months ago, her agents had infiltrated the Dominion's military software networks. They had planted code that would activate when certain conditions were met. Those conditions had just been met. Across the Grand Fleet, navigation computers began displaying false information. Jump coordinates became scrambled. Fleet positioning data showed ships in the wrong locations. Communication systems began routing messages to incorrect recipients. War Master, our systems are compromised, the communications officer reported. We are receiving conflicting orders. Ships are reporting. Their navigation is unreliable. We cannot coordinate a retreat. Zulvex felt the situation slipping beyond his control. This was not a battle. This was a carefully orchestrated dismantling of his entire fleet. Every system, every tactic, every advantage the Dominion possessed was being countered by an enemy that understood them better than they understood themselves. "Open a channel to the human fleet," he ordered. "I will speak with their commander." Captain Hyojin Lee watched the Dominion flagship's communication request appear on her display. She had been waiting for this moment. "Accept the transmission." War Master Zulvex's face appeared on her screen. He looked tired, defeated. "Human Commander, I am War Master Zulvex of the Galactic Dominion. I request terms for a ceasefire." "Terms?" Hyojin replied. "Your Supreme Overlord was offered terms before your fleet ever entered our system. He refused. He sent you to conquer or destroy Earth. Now you want to negotiate. I understand we have made a grave mistake. Your capabilities were severely underestimated, but surely more bloodshed serves no purpose. Allow my ships to retreat, and I give you my word as a warrior that the Dominion will reconsider its approach to Earth." Hyojin leaned forward slightly. "War Master, I have been authorized to tell you something. For 30 years, Earth has known about the Dominion. We have watched you conquer species after species. We have studied your tactics, your technology, your methods. We asked ourselves one question: what would we do if you came for us?" She gestured to the tactical display. "This is our answer. We prepared. We innovated. We did not wait to be victims. And now you come to us asking for mercy after showing none to the species you conquered. Then what do you propose?" Zulvex asked quietly. "I propose you stay exactly where you are and think about the situation you are in. Your fleet is disabled. Your systems are compromised. Your advance force is destroyed, and you still have not seen everything we are capable of." As if to emphasize her point, alarms began sounding across the Dominion fleet. Officers shouted in confusion as new information appeared on their displays. Supreme Overlord Vexithera had ordered a demonstration of Dominion power. Their stellar decimator weapon, hidden in a heavily defended station at the edge of the system, was designed to destroy planets. Vexithera had ordered it fired at Mars, one of Earth's neighboring worlds, to show humanity the price of resistance. But the weapon did not fire at Mars. Instead, it rotated slowly, and then its massive energy beam lanced out toward the Dominion fleet itself. General Bo Young-yoon's agents had infiltrated the weapon months ago. Now they controlled it completely. The beam swept through a section of the Dominion fleet, destroying 200 ships in an instant. The remaining vessels scrambled to escape the weapon's range, their formations breaking completely. "You were saying something about bloodshed serving no purpose?" Hyojin said to Zulvex, whose face had gone pale. "That was your own weapon turned against you." "We have had control of it for 6 months. We could have destroyed your fleet at any moment. We chose to give you a chance to see reason." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We did not start this war, War Master. Your overlord did, but we will finish it." Supreme Overlord Vexithara stood alone in his private chamber, staring at the holographic display that showed the remains of his grand fleet. 400 ships remained operational out of the original 850. 400 ships that were now trapped in the human system, unable to navigate reliably, unable to communicate securely, unable to do anything but wait for humanity's next move. He had ruled the Dominion for 23 years. In that time, he had never faced defeat. Species had knelt before him. Empires had crumbled at his command. And now a single planet had brought his military might to its knees in less than a week. "My overlord," Chancellor Cremora entered the chamber, her insectoid features unreadable. "The Council is demanding answers. Several member species are questioning your leadership. There are even whispers of replacing you." "Let them whisper," Vexthara growled. "I will not be remembered as the overlord who surrendered to primitives. Order the remaining fleet to make a direct assault on Earth itself. Even if we lose every ship, even if we accomplish nothing else, we will show the galaxy that the Dominion does not retreat." Cremora's mandibles clicked nervously. "My overlord, War Master Zulvex, advises against this course of action. He believes the fleet should withdraw and regroup. The humans have proven to be far more capable than anticipated. Zulvex has failed me. The fleet will attack, or I will find commanders who will obey my orders." Far from the Dominion capital, Captain Dong-hyun Shin's reconnaissance fleet completed its mission. For 3 weeks, his ships had traveled deep into Dominion space, striking military shipyards at 3 different star systems. The attacks had been surgical and devastating. Each shipyard had been destroyed, but only after civilian populations had been given time to evacuate. "Captain, all objectives completed. his tactical officer reported. Dominion military production capability reduced by approximately 37%. Civilian casualties minimal. Dong-hyun nodded. This had been the most delicate part of Earth's strategy. They needed to show the Dominion they could strike anywhere at any time, but they also needed to show restraint. Humanity was not fighting to conquer or to commit genocide. They were fighting to be left alone. Send the report back to Earth Command, he ordered, and transmit the civilian warning recordings to the Galactic Council. Let them see that we gave every possible chance for innocents to escape before we destroyed military targets. In the council chambers, Council Member Praxis watched the recordings from the human attacks. The crystalline being's light flickered thoughtfully as he observed human soldiers giving warnings, offering medical assistance, even helping with evacuation efforts before destroying the military installations. They are showing mercy, another council member observed. Even in war, they are trying to minimize harm to innocents. This is unprecedented, a third member added. The Dominion never show such restraint. They demand total submission or total destruction. Praxis made a decision. He opened a private channel to Earth, one that Supreme Overlord Vexathara knew nothing about. When Ambassador Yunji Kang's face appeared on his display, he spoke quickly. Ambassador Kang, I am Council Member Praxis. I am reaching out without official authorization, because I believe this war must end before more lives are lost. What would Earth require to accept a peace agreement? Yunji's expression remained cold and professional. She had replaced Ambassador Jiwoo Park specifically because of her reputation for harsh negotiations. Council Member, Earth's requirements are simple. Complete withdrawal of all Dominion forces from our system, a formal non-aggression pact covering 500 light-years around Earth, and most importantly, assurance that the Dominion will never threaten us again. 500 light-years? Praxis's light flickered in surprise. That encompasses dozens of systems. Those systems will remain independent or under Dominion control as they choose, Yunji clarified. We simply want a buffer zone. We do not seek to conquer anyone. We seek only to be left alone, as we have been telling you for 30 years. I will bring this to the Council. But you must understand, Supreme Overlord Vexathara will never accept these terms. Then Vexathara will learn the same lesson his fleet learned. Arrogance has a price, Council Member. The question is whether the Dominion is willing to pay it. Admiral Taewon Kim received the alert at 3 a.m. Earth time. He was in his quarters, trying to sleep for the first time in days when the urgent message came through. Sir, the remaining Dominion fleet is breaking from their position near Neptune. They are on a direct course for Earth. Taewon was on his feet instantly, pulling on his uniform as he ran toward the command center. Activate all defense systems. Get me a connection to Captain Lee, and prepare to activate the planetary shield. Within minutes, he stood in the command center, watching as 400 Dominion warships accelerated toward Earth. They were moving in a tight formation, all shields at maximum, all weapons charging. It was a desperate, all-or-nothing assault. Sir, we are detecting massive power buildups across their fleet, an officer reported. They are preparing to fire everything they have at Earth the moment they enter range. How long until they reach firing distance? 18 minutes, Taewon took a deep breath. This was the moment he had hoped would never come. The moment when Earth had to show its final, most powerful defense. Activate the planetary shield. Let them come. Captain Hyojin Lee watched from the Indomitable as the Dominion fleet passed her position. She had been ordered not to engage, to let them approach Earth itself. It went against every instinct she had as a military officer, but she understood the strategy. Humanity needed the galaxy to see what happened next. They needed every species to understand exactly what Earth was capable of. The Dominion fleet reached firing range. 400 ships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a continent, unleashed everything they had at Earth. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic projectiles, all of it hurtled toward the small blue planet that had defied their empire. And then the shield activated. It was not a traditional shield made of energy or electromagnetic fields. It was something far more advanced, a manipulation of gravity itself. Space-time warped around Earth, creating a barrier that no known weapon could penetrate. The Dominion's weapons struck the shield and simply stopped. Energy dissipated harmlessly. Missiles detonated without effect. Kinetic projectiles hung frozen in space before falling back toward the fleet that had fired them. War Master Zulvex, imprisoned aboard the Indomitable, watched the futile attack through a viewport. Captain Lee stood beside him, her expression unreadable. "We conquered because we were strongest," Zulvex said quietly. "We believed our technology was superior. We believed our numbers were unstoppable. But you defeated us because you were smarter. You prepared. You studied. You asked questions we never thought to ask. We asked, what if?" Lee replied. "What if a larger empire came for us? What if our only choice was to fight or die? What if we had 30 years to prepare for the worst possible scenario?" Those questions led us to develop technology, tactics, and strategies that you never imagined because you never needed to. You were already on top. She gestured toward Earth, still pristine and untouched despite the massive attack. "That is the difference between us, War Master. You fought to conquer. We fought to survive. And survival makes you far more dangerous than ambition ever could." The Dominion fleet, having exhausted their weapons to no effect, sat in space, completely defeated. Slowly, one by one, ships began broadcasting surrender signals. Supreme Overlord Vex Thera received the news in silence. His grand fleet had surrendered. His attacks had failed. His empire, built on the fear of overwhelming force, had been humbled by a single species that had asked to be left alone. Chancellor Cremora stood beside him, no longer showing deference. "The Council has voted, my former Overlord. You are removed from power, effective immediately. I am to serve as interim leader until a new Overlord can be chosen." "You betray me?" Vex Thera snarled. "No, I saved the Dominion from your arrogance. The humans offered peace. They asked only to be left alone. You chose war, and this is the result." Cremora's tone was not unkind, merely factual. Perhaps the next Overlord will be wiser. 3 days later, Ambassador Yun-Ji Kang stood before the Galactic Council once more. This time there was no mockery, no condescension. The representatives of 47 species listened in respectful silence as she spoke. "Earth did not want this war. We warned you. We tried diplomacy. But when forced to defend ourselves, we did so with every resource at our disposal." She paused, looking at each council member in turn. "Now we offer peace. Not surrender, not tribute, but true peace between equals." Interim Chancellor Cremora stepped forward. "The Dominion accepts Earth's terms. We will withdraw all forces from your territory. We will establish the requested buffer zone, and we formally apologize for the arrogance and aggression of our previous leadership. More than that," Council Member Praxis added, "we propose that Earth be granted full Council membership, with all rights and privileges. You have proven yourselves worthy of a voice in galactic affairs." Yunji considered this carefully. "Earth will accept Council membership on one condition." 3 months had passed since the end of the war. The Galactic Council chamber looked different now. Where once only representatives of the Dominion's member species had sat, now there were empty seats awaiting the arrival of new members. Species that had been conquered decades ago were slowly regaining their independence, and the Council was preparing to welcome them back. President Yuna Bayek stood at the podium addressing the assembled delegates. She was a small woman, but her presence filled the chamber. Behind her, the flag of Earth hung beside the banners of 47 other species. "We did not seek this war," she began, her voice calm but carrying easily through the space. "We asked only to be left alone. We warned that forcing conflict would end badly for everyone involved. When our warnings were ignored, we defended ourselves with every resource we possessed." She paused, looking around the chamber. "But today, I stand before you not as a warrior, but as someone who wishes to build something better. Earth has technology that could help millions across the galaxy, medical advances that could cure diseases, agricultural methods that could end hunger. We are willing to share these things freely, not as conquerors imposing our will, but as partners working toward a common good." Interim Chancellor Cremora, who had proven to be far more reasonable than her predecessor, stood to respond. "The Dominion accepts Earth's offer of partnership. We also wish to make a formal statement. The policies of conquest and forced submission are ended. Moving forward, the Dominion will respect the sovereignty of all species and seek cooperation rather than domination." The chamber erupted in what could only be described as cautious applause. Many species were still uncertain about these promises. The Dominion had ruled through fear for too long. But President Bayek's next words began to change that uncertainty into hope. "To demonstrate our commitment to peace, Earth is establishing a medical aid program. Dr. Hyunwoo Song, who many of you know developed our defensive weapons, has volunteered to lead this program. His first project will be establishing hospitals on worlds that were damaged during the Dominion's expansion wars. Dr. Song stepped forward, looking uncomfortable in the diplomatic setting. He was far more at ease in a laboratory than in front of crowds. I built weapons because Earth needed to defend itself. But I am a scientist, not a soldier. I would much rather build things that save lives than things that end them. If other species will accept our help, we will do everything we can to assist. Council member Praxius rose from his seat. I speak for many when I say that Earth's restraint during the war and generosity afterward have earned our trust. The question I have is simple. Why? Why do you offer aid to the same empire that tried to conquer you? President Bayek smiled sadly. Because holding grudges helps no one. The Dominion's previous leadership made terrible decisions, but the species within the Dominion are not our enemies. They are simply beings trying to survive in a difficult universe just like us. If we can help them, why would we not? Admiral Jinho Lim stood on the bridge of Earth's newest ship, the EDS Harmony. Unlike the Indomitable, which was designed for war, the Harmony was built for exploration and diplomacy. Its mission was to venture beyond known space, to discover what lay in the unexplored regions of the galaxy. Admiral, all systems are ready, his first officer reported. We have permission from the Council to begin our mission. Jinho looked out at the stars. For 30 years, Earth had focused on defense, on preparation for worst-case scenarios. Now they could finally do what humans had always dreamed of doing: exploring, learning, meeting new species not as conquerors or conquered, but as curious neighbors. Set course for the Galactic Rim, he ordered. Let us see what is out there. Captain Hyojin Lee walked through the memorial garden that had been built on Earth's moon. Names were carved into stone, remembering the soldiers who had died defending humanity. The list was surprisingly short. Earth had won the war with minimal casualties, a fact that still amazed military historians across the galaxy. War Master Zulvex walked beside her. He had been released from captivity and was now serving as a military advisor, teaching Earth's forces about other potential threats in the galaxy. It was an unusual arrangement, but it worked. You seem troubled, Zulvex observed. I am thinking about how close we came to being conquered, Lee admitted. If Supreme Overlord Vexithera had been smarter, if he had studied us as carefully as we studied him, things might have ended very differently. Perhaps. But he did not because he could not. The Dominion had won for so long that they forgot how to prepare for defeat. You won because you never forgot that losing was possible. Zulvex touched one of the memorial stones gently. I have been thinking about something you said during the war. That you fought to survive while we fought to conquer. I understand now what you meant. Survival makes you creative. Survival forces you to consider every possibility. Conquest makes you arrogant. What will you do now? Lee asked. When your advisory term ends? I have been invited to teach at the Dominion's military academy. To teach young officers about the importance of humility, of respecting your opponent, of understanding that winning is not about having the biggest fleet. He smiled, an expression that looked strange on his amphibious features. In a way, Earth did not just defeat the Dominion. You showed us how to be better. Colonel Minseo Choi stood before a group of recruits from a dozen different species. The Terra Marines had evolved into something unexpected. After the war, representatives from other species had asked if they could join Earth's military forces. The request had been carefully considered and ultimately accepted. Now, standing before her were humans, Krell, members of Praxis's species, even a few young Dominion citizens who wanted to learn how Earth had achieved such an unlikely victory. Listen carefully, she told them. Being a Terra Marine is not about being the strongest or having the best weapons. It is about being smart. It is about working together. It is about understanding that every life, even an enemy's life, has value. She gestured to the training facility around them. We will teach you how to fight. But more importantly, we will teach you how to think, how to solve problems, how to achieve objectives with minimum casualties. Because the goal is not to kill your enemy. The goal is to make them stop being your enemy. Ambassador Yunji Kang sat across from Interim Arbiter Norval, the crystalline being who had been chosen as the Dominion's new permanent leader. They were negotiating the final details of the Treaty of Solar Accord, the document that would officially end the state of war and establish the new relationship between Earth and the Dominion. Earth requests one final concession, Yunji said. We want the right to intervene if we observe any species being conquered against their will within our agreed sphere of influence. Norval's light flickered thoughtfully. That could be seen as Earth imposing its values on others. Perhaps. But we did not survive 30 years of preparation just to watch others suffer the fate we avoided. Consider it a condition of our continued cooperation. Very well. The Dominion agrees, but I have a request in return. Would Earth consider establishing a joint research program? Not for weapons, but for civilian technology. We have much to learn from your approach to innovation. Yunji smiled. I believe that can be arranged. President Beck received visitors in her office on Earth. 13 species that had been conquered by the Dominion were seeking Earth's help in rebuilding their civilizations. She listened to each representative, making notes, asking questions, understanding their needs. We can help, she said finally. But understand Earth will not become a new empire. We will not rule you. We will assist you in rebuilding, and then we will step back and let you govern yourselves. Why? One representative asked. You have the power to rule us if you wished. Because that is not who we are, Beck replied simply. We fight when we must. We help when we can. But we do not conquer. We have seen what empires become and we want no part of it. Commander Sora Han was preparing for a very different mission. Ghost Squadron had been retrained for exploration rather than combat. Their advanced ships designed to slip through enemy defenses were now being used to map unexplored regions of space. Commander, we have detected an unusual signal. Her sensor operator reported. It is coming from dark space beyond the galactic rim. What kind of signal? We are not sure. It appears to be a countdown of some kind, and it is old, very old, possibly millions of years. Sora felt a chill. Humanity had defeated the Dominion, but the galaxy was vast. There were older things out there, things that had existed long before any current species had learned to travel among the stars. Send the data back to Earth Command, she ordered, and begin full analysis. If something is counting down, we need to know what happens when it reaches 0. The message reached Earth 3 days later. Admiral Taewon Kim read the report in silence, then called an emergency meeting with President Bayek and the military leadership. We won the war against the Dominion, he said quietly. But this signal suggests something else is out there. Something that might make the Dominion look like a minor threat by comparison. President Bayek studied the data. The countdown, if their translation was correct, would reach 0 in approximately 3 years.